Hello again, Steve here with what I find to be a helpful little life hack, you might say. Something that's helpful for me, anyways, and maybe it's something that you would be interested in. It's called Moments of Truth, and it's actually a presentation that we do in Toastmasters for helping out a club. There's a group of speeches called the Successful Club Series, and this is one of them. And I'm going to go through it a little bit because I think it's really helpful in terms of many areas of our lives, perhaps all areas of our lives. The reason it's called Moments of Truth is because imagine this. Imagine you walk into a place, say it's a house party, you've been invited to, you are apprehensive perhaps about going. You might know somebody who invited you there, but you've never been there before and you don't know the people that are there. You have an impression of what it's going to be, but you don't really know what it's going to be like. When you first walk in the door, the sounds you hear, the aromas, the people you meet, the friendliness of them or the not so friendliness of them, how drunk they are, or whatever it is, that can be referred to as a moment of truth. See, on one hand, you had the expectation of what was going to be truthful, and then you ran into the reality of what was truthful, and that in that moment you had a moment of truth. Now, moments of truth can be obviously positive, they can be negative, they can be neutral, and they are to a great extent what it is that gets us to go back or enjoy ourselves or not so much, right? Because we all have heard the saying the first impressions are so important, and this is why we, if we're going to go out to a formal event or whatever, we wear formal attire. I mean, we present ourselves in such a way that we try to give a good impression, or not so, depending on what we're up to. Now, I'm going to go through this just as a summary, because even though it's a Toastmasters thing, I think it has a lot of value for us. I mean, think about this. How many times have we gone on a date, say for example, and we wonder after the fact, did I look like a complete buffoon? I mean, what was that other person thinking? So, or we've gone for a job interview or something like that. So it doesn't have to be Toastmasters. Hey, it could be that you own a small business or you want to start a small business. What is the impression of the other individual coming into that premise or coming to visit you? Or are you visiting them? What's your impression? What do they feel about you? It's important to think about these things, because if these things matter, if relationships matter, then it's important for us to consider how it is that we impress upon others, so that we can at least, we're at least aware of it, and we can either do nothing about it, laugh at the situation, or improve ourselves in some way. So let's begin. Moments of truth. So they talk about here as moments of truth, this particular thing for Toastmasters, it's a tool that Toastmasters groups use to try to create a quality club, so they can evaluate themselves and then do targeted recommendations on themselves. So that'd be something like for ourselves. We could use something, a structured thing, as a tool for us to improve, to create a more quality impression of ourselves, so that we can actually evaluate ourselves or ask people for impressions of us, to, ask friends and so on. Like the old saying goes, the wife asks the husband, do I look fat in this dress? What does the husband normally do? He gives some line of bullshit because he doesn't want to be, he doesn't want to get in trouble. You know what, guys? Be honest. She's asking a question. Answer it politely. Because she doesn't want to look fat in the dress, probably, if she's asking. So she'd rather that moment of truth be with you than with a whole bunch of people who are strangers and be embarrassed or whatever. Unless she wants to look fat in the dress, which I haven't really met too many women who want to be fat and look fat in a dress. Now, the thing about a moment of truth that we experience, or if we can somehow, let's say we have a small little store, or we're going to, you're a musician and you want to do an impression or you're a musician, or you're a comedian or something like that, any kind of a public person, or an employee, and you have aspirations to get ahead. Wouldn't it be important to ask somebody, supervisor, coworkers, what do you think of me? Am I, and if they tell you something that you don't like, it's a good idea to thank them, because say, hey, I would have never known that. I would have never known that. And it's an opportunity then to improve that impression. So it's good to understand whether people's moments of truth are about us, about what we're doing, right? Now, the thing about a moment of truth is it can help us put more quality into what we do, right? And therefore is going to help us achieve in what it is that we want. Let's say, I like to use the example of dating, because so many people have that's kind of a universal thing that most people have experienced. So what do we do when we're dating? We want to achieve, right? And the achievement is, something different for everybody, but it's usually somewhat similar. And if we, create a more quality self that's more acceptable, if we don't never brush our teeth and we start brushing our teeth, we create a greater opportunity for achievement. How do I put it more simply than that, right? And we create an opportunity for people to enjoy the experience with us, and yeah, so some of this stuff applies specifically to the club, but it's interesting. And then it goes through the potential for growth, potential for achievement. I like this paragraph. There's a paragraph here. It's called Moments of Truth. I'll read it aloud, but imagine you insert anything else in there. Insert your own name into there where it says Toastmasters and see what it sounds like, okay? Moments of Truth. When anyone comes in contact with any aspect of Toastmasters, the person forms an impression based on his or her experience at that particular time. These decisive times are when initial impressions are formed, and they're known as moments of truth. Now imagine if you just put your name in there. When anyone comes in contact with any aspect of you, that person forms an impression based on the experience of that time. But the challenge is we often don't know what that impression is. These decisive times, when initial impressions are formed, are known as the moments of truth about us, right? No matter what we're trying to get out of life, it so often involves teaming up in some way with partners, with customers, suppliers, friends, co-workers, committee members, whatever it is. And if they have a good impression of us, they're going to have good, positive moments of truth, which they're going to want more of. So it's an important thing to think about, I think. And here's basically the summary of the areas that Toastmasters focuses on. Some of them would relate to us in any aspect of us, our businesses, our jobs, our personal lives, our sex lives, whatever it is. They're going to apply to us. So for example, the first one they have is first impressions, right? First impressions, so important. This is why, when guys like me don't care as much about first impressions anymore, sometimes I go out here with that old hat. But, when first impression is important, I try to make that important. So that's more of a membership orientation. But this is important in a job setting, right? If you are an employer and you take on a new individual, or if you are a seller of some product and you don't help that customer with what it is that they want help with, you don't orient them. They call you up and you say, well, I don't have time, whatever. But if you give them good customer service, you're helping to orient them with the quality of your business and yourself. And you're leaving an excellent moment of truth with that individual. Fellowship, variety, and communication. This is a great one for our human interaction, our friendship, our social interaction that leaves excellent moments of truth in the minds of others. We're good friends, right? We have variety. We initiate things. We're not boring, right? And we communicate. We ask. We listen. We don't just talk, talk, talk. Communication is a two-way street. We also listen. We're organized. You know, if we say we're going to be somewhere at a certain time, we're actually there. This is important. We're prompt. We're trustworthy. People trust us. We're strong. We're resilient. We're confident. This is something that's attractive, right? You see that people who have these attributes are very often recognized in their communities for such. And we recognize the achievement in others. When we meet somebody and we've heard their friend, say, or an associate, and we've heard that they've just finished writing a book, or they were recognized at their local student council because they were voted in the president of the student council, whatever. And even if we heard about it third hand, but hey, you know what? I'm proud of you. That's amazing that you got that. Can you tell me something about it? That's recognizing their achievement. It's not just giving a fairly empty congratulations slap in the back and say, can you tell me something about that? This is engaging in the variety and the communication and the fellowship that people yearn so much for. People want to be felt, want to feel that they're important to others. And when we help people, we recognize their achievements, we're creating an excellent and thirst-quenching moment of truth in the hearts and minds of others. So this is what I wanted to share this evening. It's fairly straightforward. Anybody who's in Toastmasters, it's old hat. It's what you've heard several times. You've been in there for a while. But it is important, I think, because just think back again for yourself. Think back, in this case, to an event you actually went to. Maybe it was in high school. Remember, I went to a few of them, house parties. And you're not sure who's actually there. There's a little bit of trepidation. Don't know if you should stand in the corner or not. But the thing is, what I've always noticed is that there's this expectation that happens several days before. What's this going to be like? There's a little bit of anticipation, eager anticipation, but a little bit of trepidation as well. And sometimes that moment of truth, the real experience of walking in there, is quite different. But it can be quite, or sometimes it's almost always different, but sometimes it's wildly different. Sometimes wildly different in a positive, enlightening way. Other times not so much, falling down drunk and, lost my pants or whatever. And these sort of things these are moments of truth when we first walk in. And, one of the reasons why I think it's so important is in our relationships. There's a country song by Alan Jackson, or is it Zach Brown, While She's Walking Away, right? I'm falling in love while she's walking away. And if you ever watch the video, it's this very shy guy, and he sees this pretty girl or whatever, and he's wanting to ask her, but he doesn't, and she walks away. He had a moment of truth. Perhaps she was interested. Who knows? Nobody will ever know. Because there was no communication of that moment of truth. None. And so often when we're in business or we're in community and we're even in close relationships with family, so many misunderstandings can go on because we don't express ourselves. We don't let people know what we feel. And we don't ask others what they feel about us. We don't find out about what those moments of truth are, and we lose great opportunities. So I think it behooves us to think about our moments of truth and try to find out when it's important, the moments of truth of others. Steve here again, great chatting. Talk again soon. Bye for now.